Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Hammer Territory podcast. This is episode 306. My name is Brad Rowland. I'm coming to you on a Sunday evening here in early December, and I'm joined, as I always am, by Scott Coleman. Scott, the winter meetings are upon us, and in general, that means activity. We'll see about the Braves activity, but activity around the league nonetheless. How are you this evening?
Hello, Brad. I'm doing well, and you're right. This is an exciting time on the baseball calendar. We have seen Alex Anthopoulos do some work during the winter meetings, but maybe this is not his bread and butter time of the offseason, but every year is going to be different. And hopefully in the next couple of days, we get a lot of activity, both for the Braves and around the rest of Major League Baseball. I think as fans of the game, we like to see a lot of activity and movement, and it's been a decently fast offseason so far. There have been worse first months of the offseason in recent years, for sure.
Yeah, and you are a harsh critic of that when it doesn't happen, which I think is right. I will also say, I think I've seen you remind people, Stephen has, Sean has, our colleagues on this podcast, like a lot of business has to get done still. We're probably like 10% of the way, if that, into the offseason so far. So the Braves have been not even that quiet. They actually made a big signing. They just happened to be a guy that we already knew, so it was not with the same amount of excitement level that it might have been already. But a lot to get to today. Nothing that's a huge lead topic, but certainly some news and notes, inklings around the winter meetings are happening in Orlando. They began technically today as we're recording this on Sunday evening. They run officially through Wednesday, but that is not exactly a firm time period. Like things could happen before and after. So it's not like we have this window that they could only do things in. But Alex, like you said, has done some stuff, but I know, by the way, we should say this. Our colleague, Sean Coleman, interviewed Robert Murray of Fansided and Foul Territory just a few days ago. And that was an awesome conversation. Shouts to Sean, shouts to Robert, and a good prep for the winter meetings. Robert's a really, honestly, an awesome insider. There was a lot of people. There was a lot of things. And I think it was notable that he pointed to starting pitching for the Braves. I recommend everyone listen to that episode for sure. But I think the quote was that reading between the lines of what Alex said at the GM meetings and what I've heard, this is what Robert was saying. Starting pitching is absolutely a priority for Anthopoulos, is the way he said it. Not a huge surprise to us, I don't think, but just another kind of rekindling of that reality, basically. Did you have a response to anything that Robert said that was interesting to you? Because that's the thing that was like jumping out to me is in his conversation.
Yeah, great conversation with Robert. I mean, honestly, Jeff Passan is the news breaking king of baseball, but honestly, man, Robert is right up there with everybody else. So check out that interview, and he's broken Braves news in the past as well. So really great to have Robert on the network. And, it's interesting. Robert said that pitching is a priority, starting pitching is a priority for Anthopoulos. And then today on Sunday, Anthopoulos met with the media contingency in Orlando at the winter meetings. And I don't want to say that he poured cold water on that. And again, you should only take so much at face value what a general manager says to media. But
yes,
Alex poured a little bit of cold water on the starting pitching thing because he said that Grant Holmes has been progressing really well from his elbow surgery. And they're hopeful that he's going to be ready to roll in some kind of a role. And it seems like they've gotten good news on Ronaldo Lopez as well. I still think this team needs a starting pitcher. I do. I think you do too, Brad. But we'll see. I guess we'll find out for sure. I don't think anyone would be surprised if the Braves had a starting pitcher, and I really hope they do.
You and I a week ago in the same time slot Sunday evening talked about starting pitching extensively, and part of the reason for that was because of things that Alex had said previously, and I think that you made the point that has to be stressed. That you don't take everything as gospel that a GM or Pobo or whatever title the person has says on the record. There's inklings. You can take things from what is said. You can rule things out potentially. You can rule things in potentially. That all matters. But his first public comments pointed to, hey, we want to address starting pitching. Like he kind of did say that on the record a couple weeks ago, week and a half ago. I think treating Grant Holmes, this is actually the courtesy of Dave O'Brien, who had these notes from the meeting on Sunday afternoon with Alex. But treating Grant Holmes like he's back is a good thing. That's another arm the Braves can have. It also does not mean that he is ruled into the rotation automatically as well. Like Grant Holmes has a long record of being a relief pitcher, for example, and a guy who did not have UCL surgery on his pitching arm. It could be fine, but it also may not be. And he might just be a reliever. We'll see. So that versatility for me is a plus. The fact that you can have him as a starting pitching option, but also have him in the bullpen very reasonably as your long man, that's cool. That does not mean you don't want a starting pitcher by any means. Nor I know you didn't say that, neither did he. Just keep that in mind for everybody else. He did kind of stress again that Joe Jimenez is not to the same part of the development curve, return curve that Grant Holmes is. That's not new. He did say that earlier in the offseason. I know he mentioned on the radio and then kind of reaffirmed that Jimenez had a second cleanup procedure on the knee. It cost him last season, but they're not counting on him essentially until he ramps up. And that's the right move. Like, they're paying him. He's owed money. He's been good for a long time, but until you see a guy pitch and be healthy, you can't assume he's going to be. So I think having him almost like to the side of the depth chart is probably how you have to approach that. Does that make sense at all? Like, it's just like, I hope we have him. He's good when he's pitching, but we just don't know.
If it was like an organizational flow chart, I think it would be like a dotted line to Joe Jimenez at this point. And, I wonder, as the Braves make their moves in the coming weeks, they might put bullpen to the back burner until they've had a chance to see Joe Jimenez throw a handful of bullpens and see. And if that knee is still causing problems, then dear Lord, then it becomes like even more critical. They go out and add a high impact reliever or 2 or 3. But if they feel like that Jimenez is going to be healthy and the doctors have given him a clean bill of health and he's throwing the ball well and isn't reporting any discomfort, obviously then you feel much better about your 7th and 8th innings as currently constructed. I still think they need to go out and add probably one reliever of note. Probably, it's not going to be an Edwin Diaz I really like Pete Fairbanks, but I don't think Pete Fairbanks is going to come here to take an 8th inning role when teams are looking for closers. But there's still a lot of really fine middle relievers, both in the free agent market and in trade. We saw over the weekend a big trade with the Mariners and the Nationals trading for a left-handed reliever, and it was a hefty return that Seattle paid for it. So it's really good. Relievers are never cheap, and I think especially if there's any kind of question about Jimenez, the Braves are going to have to do something with the bullpen. There's just not enough proven commodities out there, even if you want to say, well, maybe we put Grant Holmes or Ronaldo Lopez out there.
Yeah, and I'm sure they know that as well. And, you can wait a little bit on relievers, maybe not the top guys, but if you go beyond the Robert Suarez, Edwin Diaz tier of guys, somebody's going to wait. Not everything's going to happen early. We see that every year now. The market seems to move slower than we all want it to on an annual basis, no matter what. So, yeah, I agree with all of that. The other things, there was 2 more things that made some waves I've seen online that Alex said today. One of them is that he expressed a preference, not a guarantee, but a preference that the Braves were to operate without a full-time assigned DH, basically splitting the duties at the position, which is something that I know I've said, I think you have as well, is my preference as well. Like, it doesn't mean that you can't have a full-time DH. If Kyle Schwarber wanted to sign for a very reasonable price, come on down, Kyle. That's totally fine. But I think in a perfect world, I would prefer another outfielder to a full-time DH. You want to have another bat of some kind. That's kind of a distinction that's also worth making. What he's saying here, and he didn't lay this out in detail, but I wonder what you think about this. He didn't say we don't want another bat. He said we don't want to, in an ideal world, have a full-time DH. That's an interesting and important distinction to make. Like, I think they need a bat, and I've said that a number of times on this podcast. But that doesn't mean it has to be Marcell Ozuna, Kyle Schwarber, DH only player. It can be an outfielder, preferably for me anyway. Does that make sense? And also, that was my read between the lines. I'd be surprised if Alex didn't want to add to the offense. I saw people reading that into basically like thinking, hey, it's going to be Baldwin, Murphy, and a rotation. Like, maybe it will be, but that's not what he said, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think, we've talked about it numerous times on the show, but adding an outfielder to not only play in the outfield, but also rotate at DH with Acuna and Profar would be terrific. Or even if they don't want to add a traditional outfielder, but want to add like Ryan O'Hearn is a player who I've been digging into quite a bit. Mm-hmm. Could play first base, although rarely, of course, does Matt Olson need a breather. And, O'Hearn could play a corner outfield on occasion. truthfully, he's probably about as good out there as Jerks and Profar is.
I was going to say it's not like a huge downgrade from Profar to whatever else.
And
Or
you could
even Ronnie
always,
last year was not the best other than the arm. So
for sure. And you could always sub him out in the corners, or similar bets out there too to Ryan O'Hearn, where as long as they're not just a total, I mean, unless they're Marcelo Zuna, most players can stand in a corner spot and not just completely kill you if they have done it in the past. But I'm all for it. I think it's a great way. I'm all for rotating DH as long as you add a hitter of some kind to this lineup. Keep guys off their feet. Let them rest. You can rest Acuna that way, but not lose his bat. Just give him some time off his feet. There's a lot of reasons, like you said, short of Kyle Schwarber, like knocking on Alex's door at the winter meeting and saying, "Hey, bud, I want to sign with Atlanta. Where do I go?" Yeah, all for it.
There are 3 guys in the lineup that I think it would benefit to have the ability to DH at least sometimes. You already mentioned one of them, Ronald. Profar is another. And then Baldwin. I don't think Baldwin has to DH every single day he's not playing catcher. I'm not of the mind of that. But I do think that he can and should DH some. Like, I don't think that his bat is like an elite one at DH, but it's good enough to play there on a regular basis. Note, I did not say Sean Murphy. Even though I'm a Sean Murphy guy, I'd prefer to have Murphy not DH all that often, which means you're signing somebody else. Because right now, he's DHing. He's the best option you have on the current roster. So, long way to go, but that was an interesting comment that made a lot of noise. The other one was that Alex said that the Braves would at least consider giving up the kind of bonus first-round pick that they got in the Drake Baldwin winning the Rookie of the Year tracker. We tracked it for 3 months. He won it. They get an extra pick. But I had to laugh, Scott. People were acting like this is like huge news. It was not huge news to me because he would never say anything else. There's no reason for Alex to say, you know what? No, we refuse to give up that pick for anyone. We will never, because there are guys on qualifying offers that if they want to take a discount to go to Atlanta, he's not going to not take them. So that was my reaction. Maybe I'm a cynic. In fact, I know I'm a cynic, Scott, but I kind of had to eye roll with some of the reactions. Like, oh, this is not really. I mean, he kind of said what you would have to say, right? Am I crazy?
Yeah, it's all part of the calculus. And if you can get a deal that you just absolutely love for Michael King or Ranger Suarez or Zach Gallen or one of these qualifying offer hitters, then sure, like that's all part of the decision that you have to make. If you give up that pick, then you don't have to give up prospects in a trade. Like, you can't have it. I've seen more and more of this, and I know it's social media, and I got to be careful who I give a platform to. But people want to add good players, but they don't want to lose the qualifying offer draft pick. But then they don't want to lose that pick, but then they don't want to give up any good prospects to trade for someone like Byron Buxton. It's like, guys, you have to give somewhere in order to add talent to your team, short of the once a decade just grand slam of all grand slam trades like Chris Sale for Vaughn Grissom. Those deals just don't happen that much. You got to give up something, whether it's a pick or prospects. And, I think it's just kind of that, where do we want to sacrifice in order to add talent to our team?
I know the sentiment is really negative on Alex now compared to where it used to be. And I get it because they just had a bad season. So that makes total sense on that front. But everything he's saying, you have to remember he has to negotiate with players and agents. So like even on that, so that's one example of, hey, we're not gonna close the door on giving that pick away for a player. Cool. Even the Grant Holmes thing, like Alex is not incentivized to tell the whole world that, man, we really, 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 really need to sign a starting pitcher. Like, that puts you in a bad spot in negotiations. Does that matter that much? Maybe not. But like, he wants to keep all his options open, and that frustrates everybody. I know people want him to be a little bit more forceful or whatever. That's not going to be him. He likes to keep his options open. That's just the way that Alex operates. Yeah. And I will just, to wrap up this first segment, I have to give you the credit on this because you said it most recently. There is a belief for some reason on the internet that Alex is the one who decides how much money to spend. And that drives me absolutely nuts. And you commented on it this week. I know Steven has as well. I think Sean maybe has even too. But it's so funny to me. Alex does not set payroll, guys. Alex makes a lot of money in the real world, a lot more money than I do and a lot more money than you do. He isn't the one paying the players. He's choosing how to spend the money he's given, to be fair. There's a responsibility with that. But it's so funny that I think the one you quoted was bargain bin Alex or whatever it was that was making me laugh. It's like, guys, he has a payroll like everybody else does. You have a budget in your life you have to spend. I know my budget's not that big. I don't have that much money, Scott, in my real life. So I can't go out and just buy a Porsche. Like, Maybe I could if I did nothing else in my life. I could probably handle that for like 2 months. But I have a budget to have to stick to. So does Alex.
Yeah. Yes. Sadly, Alex does not have $200 million just sitting on his desk to go out and spend. And yeah, if you want to be angry at Braves Holding LLC. Be
And Terry
angry at
McGurk, whatever,
Terry
whoever.
McGurk.
Yeah, if you want to yell about money, yell at Terry McGurk. He's the face of that. It's not just him, but he's more the face of the money side.
There is not a sitting general manager or player of baseball operations in Major League Baseball who is voluntarily not spending money.
Yes, that is correct. It is easier to do your job, no matter who you are, if you have the Dodgers funding. Like, I think Andrew Friedman is very, very smart and good at his job. I think he would tell you it's a lot easier to do your job when you have unlimited funds. It just is. So,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Anyway. All right. There's some other news stuff to get to. Some outside guys to talk about. Ha-Seong Kim is back in the news a little bit. The Twins, popular trade partner with the Braves, in the news a little bit. Zach Gallen, transactions. We got more to talk about in a second after a word from our partners. Okay, Scott. Old friend Jeff Passan, your guy, along with Buster Olney at ESPN, did their kind of winter meetings preview manifesto, essentially. And the one thing about the Braves in that piece was that they wrote that Ha-Seong Kim, quote, could return to Atlanta on a shorter-term deal or seek longer-term security elsewhere, end quote. Is that a huge quote? No. But it is notable to me that all the national guys, Passan, Buster, Ken Rosenthal, our colleague at Foul Territory, Robert, everyone's leaving the door open for the Braves and Ha-Seong Kim. No one is closing the door on that. That was my big takeaway. What did you make of this? And also, like, the realities of this topic, because Ha-Seong is rep by Scott Boras, who is usually not in a hurry, and that's going to frustrate everybody, I think.
Yeah. My take on Ha-Seong Kim has been pretty much the same for a month at this point. If it is a reasonable contract and a shorter contract, then sign me up. I truly feel, as long as the Braves have a decent amount of money to still work with, that having Ha-Seong Kim as your shortstop makes the Atlanta Braves a better baseball team in 2026 and probably 2027. It also frees up then Mauricio Dubon to be your super utility guy. He can play basically everywhere on the field other than pitch and catch. That being said, if things get hairy with Ha-Seong Kim and it's a 3-year deal, 4-year deal, which was kind of been talked about a little bit, I'm capital letters OUT out. I just don't think he's that good of a player, especially with some of the concerning trends that he had last year after having shoulder surgery. And sure, hey, if the Braves get Ha-Seong Kim, I think it'll be a good addition. But I also think this team needs a hitter as well as Ha-Seong Kim. And if we talked about this a couple weeks ago, I would much rather spend money on a big bat and keep Mauricio Dubon at shortstop than add Ha-Seong Kim and not have the funds to add a bopper to the middle of this lineup.
Go back to what we talked about a second ago with the payroll. I think we all agree the best path forward, it's not our money, would be to do Ha-Seong Kim and a bat. Well, we're not saying otherwise. We're trying to live in reality, not fantasy land. But ideally, you spend the money and you just fix it all. You know what I mean? Like, whether it's trade or whatever. But I do think that in that scenario we talked about even on the show 2 weeks ago, Dubon and a big bat I prefer, especially if the Kim market gets out of control. What that number is, we don't know. Robert brought it up. I just teased it a second ago. But Scott Boras is known for being slow. Especially the last several years, he's kind of pivoted to being the we're going to wait it out agent. And Alex has before, I would say multiple times, been unwilling to wait for a single player, which I think is probably the right move. Like, if you want to keep your options open and some great opportunity comes to you that you have to either do now or wait, he tends to just take the opportunity, which I think is logical in the big picture. It could be the wrong move, but if Ha-Seong Kim isn't going to sign until March, which we don't know that that's going to happen, but if he wants to wait forever and ever, Alex may not be willing to wait, which is part of the nuance here as well. And also, Ha-Seong Kim is a good player. He is not without risk at all. I think that's kind of been framing in some ways. Like, he's never been a great hitter. He's been a good hitter before, not a great one. And then defensively, the numbers were really good before. Last year, they weren't that good. So, like, he's not some world beater. I think he's better than Mauricio Dubon. I'm pretty confident about that. But he's not pick your awesome star level shortstop. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Elsewhere on the market side of things, Ken Rosenthal, our guy from Foul Territory and The Athletic, wrote that the Twins, a popular fake trade partner for the Braves recently, the quote was that Ken does not anticipate the Twins moving center fielder Byron Buxton or right-handers Joe Ryan and Pablo Lopez, according to league sources briefed on their plans. I'm going to go to you first because you had a reaction to this that I think I also shared. But what did you think when you read that report from Ken?
So it could be entirely accurate. Maybe the Twins had a come to Jesus meeting and said, you know what, we've been bad. Instead of trading and starting a rebuild that we probably need to do, we're going to try for one more year and we're going to try to add and figure this thing out. I mean, hell, a year ago, there was an argument for the Toronto Blue Jays to sell off some of their parts and came within 5 pitches of winning the World Series. I don't think the Twins are to that level. And my big reaction to Rosenthal's report that the Twins are going to hang on to their players is, one, what else are the Twins going to say from a negotiation standpoint? And two, if you just kind of add one and one together, we talk about this Twins roster is not very good. The team is in major financial debt. Lopez and Ryan only have 2 years of control left. So every day that ticks off a calendar, their value presumably goes down a bit. And Byron Buxton, his trade value is never been higher. Like, he's coming off his healthiest season in nearly a decade, was awesome, was an MVP or a all-star, I think a silver slugger. Like, trading Byron Buxton now is the epitome of selling high on a really talented player. So sure, maybe the Twins are going to hang on here, but my read is it's just kind of posturing and trying to get asking prices up, because guess what? If the Twins had an awesome offer for Byron Buxton already, he'd probably be traded.
Yeah, we totally agree. And this goes back a little bit to what we said about Alex. Always try to consider the other side. Like, what is the team trying to accomplish with what they're saying? And Ken's really good. He's not going to just print something to print it. Like, he has good information. So they're trying to get that out there. They're telling him things. But also, they don't have any incentive to say, we're selling everybody. Especially in that report came out like 3 days ago in like early December. Like, they're not going to wave the white flag and say, all right, guys, everything must go. Bargain basement prices, whatever.
That never happens in baseball. No. Like, even the Cardinals kind of did it a little bit, but even then they were like, well, we're not just giving these guys away.
Right.
Never do you see, like, remember even a decade ago when the Braves did their famous fire sale of Hayward and Upton and Kimbrel, and like that was out of the blue, right? Like the morning they traded Jason Hayward, they weren't forecasting that. Why would you?
No, there were no leaks about that. Yeah. So both things can be true. The Twins may not trade these guys, and I think that is very possible, maybe even likely. But this does not slam the door on that either. Like, they should give this, even if they were planning on trading Byron Buxton, Joe Ryan, Pablo Lopez, any combination of the three, they should come out and say what they said to Ken.
Of course.
So
yeah, if you're selling a truck, if you're selling a truck for $10,000, when you meet the guy who's interested in your truck, you don't walk up and go, Brad, I'll sell you this truck right now for $6,500. Please say yes. Of course not. You go, well, I'm pretty firm at 10,000. Maybe I'll go to like 95. Maybe in your mind you'll sell it for 8. But you don't. That is the worst possible negotiation.
I agree. If you want more, by the way, Sean and Steven had a very lengthy chat about Byron Buxton on this podcast last week. So listen to that. A lot of nuance in that one. A good chat. I agree with most of what I heard from the two of them. Interesting topic for sure. It's not clear cut. Byron Buxton has injury issues, all that stuff. But you're right. I just checked. He finished 11th in MVP voting in the American League this year. He was really, really good. And when he's healthy, he's awesome. And we'll see if they trade him. The Braves are a very logical team to get in the mix. We don't know if they're going to do that or not. He's from not Atlanta, but he's from Georgia, etc. Last thing on the intel reporting front, Mark Feinsand at MLB.com lumped the Braves in as a team that is, quote, also looking at Zach Gallen, Arizona Diamondbacks right-hander. There was also a interesting news cycle with Zach Gallen the other day, where Bob Nightingale reported and then didn't report on Gallen going to the Cubs. It was interesting. Jeff Passan came in over the top of that. Look it up if you want to. But also, Foul Territory's Jim Bowden wrote a piece at The Athletic with 12 free agent signings that he'd like to see happen. Again, he'd like to see, so he wasn't reporting this, but he actually gave Gallen to the Braves at 5 years and $135, and people were not very happy with that when they saw that. So I throw a lot at you there, Scott. But Zach Gallen is back in the news. We discussed him a week ago. Anything you'd like to add to any of that?
We talked about Zach Gallen quite a bit. I'll summarize it, but he is not my preferred option on the free agent market. Assuming he's getting similar money to Ranger Suarez and Michael King, I think I'd prefer those other two to Gallen. There are some reasons to think Gallen might be able to bounce back, but if it's anywhere near 5 years and $135 million, I mean, that's pretty rich, too rich for my blood. But sure. I mean, it's always interesting when you see the Braves connected with a top 10, top 12 free agent this offseason.
As a reminder, if you missed our show last week or just haven't remembered these numbers, Gallen is projected by the three major projection systems, MLB Trade Rumors, Fangraphs, ESPN, for between $18 and $20 million a year for between 2 and 4 years. The biggest deal he was projected for was 4 for $80. So 5 for 135 is a considerably larger investment than even the top of the projections. And again, they're sometimes wrong. Occasionally, guys will just get a lot more than the projections. We don't know. These guys they're not soothsayers. But you and I were wavering at 480. 5 135 would be a no-go for me, even though it's not my money. And I'm trying to put myself in the true serum mode of, okay, the Braves tomorrow, it's announced that they give him 5 for 135. What is my reaction? I think my reaction would be, all right, the Braves are better than they were yesterday. And that deal was more than I would have wanted to spend.
Yeah. I think it'd be fair to say that's a bad contract.
I don't think I would not have given that contract. So we'll see. If I had to guess, that's a deal that Alex won't give to Zach Gallen. If they were going to do that, you could probably get Ranger Suarez for that. And I think Ranger Suarez is better than Zach Gallen. So we'll see. Anyway, that's the latest thing. We're looking for intel. We're looking for reports, rumors. As Robert Murray, just in case no one believes us for some reason, Robert Murray, a national baseball writer and reporter, was basically like, the Braves never leak anything. And they don't. They're really hard to report on. It makes our lives a little bit more difficult than other teams that have a constant flow of rumors to discuss. But that's what we have so far. Zach Gallen stuff, Ha-Seong Kim stuff, Twinsy, Buzz. We'll leave it there for now. Scott, there's more to talk about in a second, including a brief Hall of Fame. And I do mean brief because we don't talk about the Hall of Fame all that much on this podcast. That's coming up in a second, plus a transaction wave. Lots of transactions. Are they big names? No, but we'll talk about them and more after word from our partners. Okay, Scott. Unfortunately, Dale Murphy did not make the Hall of Fame. That broke as we were starting to record this podcast. If you were not following this story closely, the Contemporary Era Committee met and voted only on Jeff Kent making it. So Murphy did not, neither did Don Mattingly or others. We don't cover the Hall of Fame breathlessly on the show on purpose. It's not really any of our things, but I'd like to see Murphy get in. It'd be fun. He's a legendary Brave, a guy that everybody likes. That's kind of all I have. Like, it's unfortunate. I should know this. Do you know if he's eligible again? I think he's still eligible. It's not like it's over for him, right?
I think he's still eligible. And then friend of the show, Grant McCauley, reported tonight that Murphy only received 6 of the 12 votes. So that's not great for Murph. I know there are a ton of Braves fans who rightfully hope that Dale Murphy gets in one day. Hall of Fame requirements have dropped significantly over the last few years as the eras have changed and just kind of the way that baseball is played has changed. But yeah, not great for Murph tonight. But yeah, I think the contemporary vote is different than like the traditional vote and all that. But I think Murph still has a chance in 2026.
He had unquestionably a Hall of Fame peak. It's that the longevity and the counting stats are not quite where they always, and that's an argument we're not going to have tonight. There's always the peak versus longevity argument with Hall of Fame. It's a 2-time MVP. Like, Dale Murphy was a great, great, great player. And unfortunately, he's fallen short. But hopefully more opportunities for Dale in the future. And we'll leave that to our willing and able colleagues to discuss that further. Including, by the way, Grant's done great work on this for a long time. He's interviewed Murphy multiple times. Read Grant always. Grant's awesome. The aforementioned transaction wave from the other day for the Braves. We know these are not big names. This is why this is the 30-minute mark of this podcast and not earlier. But the Braves did. They claimed 2 guys off waivers and then reportedly agreed to a minor league deal with a guy that I knew. So that's something. Probably the biggest one is that they claimed Osvaldo Bido off waivers from the A's. He's 30 years old, right-hander. He was pretty bad last year. Say that out loud. But he actually was legitimately good in 2024. And like not fake good, like under the hood good, StatCast good, Stuff Plus good. Like he was actually good a year and a half ago. That's the selling point for me. It's like, Alex, if they can get him back to where he was a year and a half ago, you got something. That's my only reaction to that.
There seems to be a common trend with these very back end of the 40-man roster relievers that Alex Anthopoulos in the front office will target, is that maybe they're coming off bad years and that's why they're available. But as recently as a year or 2 or 3 ago, they were good. And that was kind of like with Yoel Payamps. That was probably why they invested in him even at a higher level than Osvaldo Bido. Look, man, if they boot Bido off the 40-man roster in the next couple of months, nobody will be shocked. If he shows up to spring training and is one of the cuts on March 10th, nobody will be shocked. But sure, I mean, there's no harm in shuffling the back of your 40-man roster for players you think might be a little bit better than what you currently have. And if not, no harm, no foul. I mean, the reaction to these is crazy to me. Every team does this. Every team cycles the back end of their rosters. You're looking for your Tyler Matzik. You're looking for your Grant Holmes, right? Like players who probably weren't going to make the team, but then you find something and they end up being really valuable pieces.
Yeah, that's what leads to the bargain bin Alex quote that you referenced earlier. This is normal activity, guys. If this is all they do, then sure, get mad about it. We poked plenty of fun at Brian De La Cruz last winter. Did a whole show about it because it was that slow at that point in time. But Bido, again, I'm looking at StatCast page right now for 2024. There's a lot of bright red on this page. Like he was legitimately good a year and a half ago. So that's the one that if I'm ranking these in importance, that's why we're doing this one first. That one might matter. It might not, though. To your point, in a month, if he's not on the team anymore, that will not be a surprise. It's just that if you find something, you find something. If you don't, you don't. We'll see. They also claimed Anthony Molina, a 23-year-old right-hander off waivers from the Rockies. My one and only take right now on the podcast is that the Braves like to mine the Rockies. Because I think Alex wouldn't say this. He's not saying this. I'm saying it. I think there's probably a belief in the front office the Rockies are not well run. And they might be able to find someone that the Rockies can't fix and fix them.
Yeah.
Just my guess.
Why not? Take a chance.
Pierce Johnson, Tyler Kinley, 2 examples.
Yeah, the Rockies are terribly run. They don't develop anybody. Sure, take a chance. And if same thing I just said for Osvaldo Bido, if you can
without the nice numbers, like to be fair, he's a lot younger. Molina's never been good in the majors, but he's 23 and he's a former Rule 5 guy. Like he has some pedigree. He's never been good in the way that Bido had, which is why he's next on the list. But same principle applies for sure. I would say. The last one on the addition side, they reportedly agreed to a minor league deal with Ben Gamel. If you're a baseball guy, you probably have heard him at some point. He's 33 years old now, kind of a depth outfielder, lefty, was like a good 3rd, 4th outfielder for several seasons. Now he's probably organizational depth. If I had to guess, like he'll be in Gwinnett. Maybe you get an injury or something like that, and he's on your team for 2 weeks. I think Eli White is better than Ben Gamel in 2025. So, that's kind of like Eli White's probably your 4th guy right now in the outfield. Ben Gamel is your 5th guy, which means he's probably in Gwinnett. But another guy that he's a major league quality player, is what I would say. Not a great one, but a major leaguer. Every
spring, the Braves are going to bring 10, 15, 20 of these kind of veterans without really a place to play, and you give them a tryout, and 99% of the time it leads to nothing. And I'm sure Gamble will get a couple of at-bats on the, February 28th spring training game in the afternoon. And who knows, every now and then there's a great story and he'll put together a really good spring. But I'm guessing if you go to Gwinnett Stripers games, you might see some Ben Gamble this upcoming year, or he'll just get cut. Like most of these types of signings get cut in the spring.
And the last one is the Braves DFA'd Josh Walker. So in the last month, November 6th, Walker was DFA'd by the Orioles. Then on November 13th, the Braves claimed him off waivers. Then 3 weeks later, they DFA'd Josh Walker. So that was the cycle. Normal activity. Take of whatever the flat. We don't know why they claimed him in the first place. We don't know. We don't know why they're doing this now, other than 40-man space. But they just prioritized somebody else over Josh Walker. Is that enough to satisfy that?
Great.
Okay. moving right along. Last thing on the show, barring another Dale Murphy Hall of Fame news nugget that drops while we're recording, is that the draft lottery is on Tuesday. And this might be our last show before Tuesday. We don't know. If something happens tomorrow, we'll do a show. But in the meantime, 5:30 p.m. Eastern is the draft lottery. What an odd time to do that. Typical baseball, do a reasonably big event at a weird time. Yeah, Scott zips himself if you're not watching this on YouTube. But the big thing is, as long as we've been doing the show, we've not covered a lot of lotteries because, in fact, the format changed and the Braves have been good basically ever since. So the Braves have a 4.54% chance to pick number 1 in the draft. That is number 6 on the odds. And also, it's not just about picking number 1. You want to pick as high as possible to get the pick, but also the extra bonus pool money. When you talked to Carlos Collazo, our old friend on the show, that was a good primer for this as well. But we'll react to it when it's over. But the big thing is, hey, Tuesday evening is when we find out where the Braves are picking. And we obviously hope it's number 1. That'd be awesome. But 2's better than 3, 3's better than 4, etc. Anything you want to add about the draft lottery?
A couple thoughts. I mean, number one, it is a bummer. And it's funny to say this, but it is a bummer the Braves won so many games in September because I think they were like 2 games away from having the 3rd or 4th best odds, which is a shame. At one point, I think they were number 2. I don't know if they never were number 1. I don't think they ever jumped the Pirates, but
as a reminder, they won. It was 10 straight, right? They won 10 straight games in September.
Of course,
10 straight games.
I think we did a podcast quite literally titled "The Braves Are Winning." Of course. But yes, draft lottery, a foreign concept to Braves fans, but as Brad said, 4.5% chance for the number 1 pick, which is 6th best odds. Baseball does a weird lottery. It would probably make no sense for me to explain the ins and outs of how it's done, but basically the lottery picks the top 6 teams. The Braves have close to a 50% chance of being in the top 6. And then I think they run the numbers again. It is a very overly complex system for how it works. But obviously, you want as high of a pick as you can. And man alive, Brad, if there was ever a draft lottery for the Braves to strike gold and move up to the number 1 pick, MLB Pipeline talked about their top 100 draft prospects, and the number 1 projected pick is Rock Chalowski, a shortstop from UCLA. And in that MLB Pipeline scouting report on Chalowski, they said, quote, "He is considered by some to be the best all-around college shortstop prospect since Troy Tulowitzki in the 2005 draft." Cross your fingers. That would be look, man, the draft, it's unpredictable. There are no sure things other than like your Paul Skeens or your Bryce Harpers. There are so few guarantees in the draft. But if there was ever a year for the Braves to move up to number 1, getting maybe I think the word generational gets thrown around too much, but maybe a generational type of shortstop prospect to take number 1 when this team has had an enormous black hole there since Dansby Swanson left would be huge. I mean, you don't want to understand. This is not taking an 18-year-old high school pitcher. I mean, this is someone who you draft in July and maybe you could see him in Atlanta a year later.
Yeah, and of course, we'll talk about a lot of the options when we know what the lottery says. Again, it's a 4.5% chance.
Yeah,
that isn't a very high chance. The math would tell you they're not picking number 1 very often, but hey, maybe they will be. But the good thing is they're going to have a lot more bonus money to spend this draft than they usually have to bulk up the farm system a little bit. Carlos expressed what I think nationally is no one is super impressed by the Braves farm system. There's variations of that. It's not a disaster of a system, but it's not an elite one. I think we can all agree on that. So beefing it up a little bit would be helpful, and this is one step towards doing that. So we will see. And the gap between number 1 and number 6 is what, $3.5 million in bonus money? Is what you said? That's a lot of money, man. Like, it would be helpful if they were higher than lower, and we will react to that when it comes. And just to say this out loud, we're not going to suddenly cover the draft every show for 7 months. Like the baseball draft is not that kind of thing. Like, I cover basketball, as people probably know. It's a giant topic throughout the season in the NBA. When it's a good draft, people talk about the number 1 pick in the draft if it's a famous player every day. Like Victor Wembanyama, who's a famous player, was a story for a year and a half before he was drafted.
Yeah.
Baseball is not quite like that. Even when it was Harper or Skeens, it's a big deal if you're a sicko. It's not an everyday topic in the way, and especially in baseball because of what you just said. Even if the Rays won the lottery and they drafted Rochelowski, it still would not be. He's coming up the day he's drafted and is going to start shortstop. Like it's going to take a while, and it's baseball. So, but it still matters. So both things are in play here. We have pretty much ignored the draft on this show, other than right around the draft every year. We won't if they win it. it'll be a bigger topic, both this week and then again later on in the spring, et cetera, if they have their number one pick in the draft. But more that's the one small upside of being bad is that you draft higher. So that's nice.
And hopefully this is a rare occurrence for the Braves. Let's get a top pick, even if it's not one, move up to the top 3, the top 5. Every time you move up, it's worth anywhere from $500,000 to $750,000 in slot pool money, which is a big deal. I mean, that can be the difference between swaying a high-level college commit to going pro instead of going to college. So yeah, cross your fingers. Again, 5:30 on Tuesday evening, and we will, whenever we do a show after that, we will certainly talk about it then. And let's hope, cross your fingers, and let's get a top pick. Would be a huge boost to this franchise and organization to make the most out of just a miserable 2025 season.
I should have asked Carlos if he was going to be doing any TV because he's always on the actual night of the draft. I'm not sure about the lottery, but listen to the show that you did with Carlos Galazo. That was a good listen a week plus ago at this point during the Thanksgiving week. It all still applies right now. Nothing has changed on that front. Yes. So evergreen, at least for now, episode. Scott, we have done it. We have kept things under an hour this time. Our show last week was 70 minutes long. That was probably a little bit too long even for us. So we're getting out right now at 42 minutes. Anything to plug at the end of the show? If not, where can folks find you on social media if they're looking for you?
I am at Scott Coleman 55 on Twitter/X. And as we said, we'll have plenty of content from the winter meetings, any kind of transaction, even like hot rumors, which I know are few and far between for the Braves. But if we get real news or rumors or anything that's worth talking about, I promise you we will have plenty of coverage this week. And then all throughout the offseason, we, of course, do not go away. And as always, a big thank you for the support and for everybody for tuning in.
Absolutely. Please subscribe to Hammer Territory anywhere you get your podcast. We are part of the Foul Territory Network, Apple, Spotify, YouTube. We're trying to get to 5,000 subscribers on YouTube. So get us there by subscribing. If you're an audio listener, I always say this, but I'm an audio podcast guy. I am still subscribed on YouTube to many shows that I support because it helps them to grow their podcast. So go ahead and do that now as well. But ratings, reviews, and importantly, tell your friends. We know you have Braves fan friends in your life. Share the podcast with them on social or on a text or an email or whatever you like to do. If you're old like us, maybe even word of mouth, say it to someone. Hey, follow this awesome podcast. It's Hammer Territory. They cover the Braves all year round. Scott's laughing at me because I'm old. That'll do it for us, everybody. I appreciate you being here as always. Subscribe, and we'll see you all next time.